Hello, this is Clementine from Visions of Atlantis, and you're watching CMS TV.
Your classic metal show right here on the Classic Metal Show on your Memorial Day weekend. That is Bonham featuring Jason Bonham on drums there with Wait For You. And kicking off the show tonight, we heard Carmine Appice, another drummer, with his project Blue Murder with Valley of the Kings. And the king of all streaming radio shows, my good friend and partner, Chris Akin. What's going on there, Chris?
What is up, boss? How are we?
Well, we have no streaming audio tonight for the time being, anyway. Hopefully, this wonderful Microsoft system will remedy itself.
Yeah. Eventually, we're just gonna have to flip you to Linux or something that doesn't crash.
Well, after all these years, it's very rare that I have a crash. I mean, this current server that I have is a solid state hard drive, and it's been pretty reliable for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'm going to upgrade all the machines, this summer because Windows,
Windows 10 is going away.
Yeah, it's at the end of its life, so I need to upgrade the machines to newer machines.
There you go.
So that's on the agenda for the summertime. So for those of you who tune in via the stream, I apologize. Hopefully, if the server comes up, I'll connect the streams and we'll be back to normal, assuming the machine isn't fucked.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to tell you about there. It's just, it went through this whole thing, where it starts counting down the percentages of, it's doing this repair. I don't know what happened to it. It was fine this week. And then I came up to the studio about an hour and a half ago and I got the hit F to continue.
Oh boy.
So something went amiss in the last couple of days with that. All the other machines are fine, but something happened with that one. So I don't know the answer.
I guess we'll wait and see now, won't we?
Yeah. So hopefully it'll repair itself.
Right.
And we'll be back to business. So I apologize for those of you who wait so patiently to hear your songs.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to hear them tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's if I can't get it going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, here we are on the Memorial Day weekend, the last weekend of May already, heading into June. And boy, it's been like an April this week.
I know. I'm in a fucking hoodie.
It's been cold. I had the AC on a week ago, and now I had to switch back to the heat.
Yeah, that was us last night. And 2 nights ago, was it 2 nights ago? Yeah, we had a power outage for like 4 or 5 hours. We had a pretty long power outage over here, and man, did it get cold in this house.
Yeah, and I can imagine.
I was like, this is the end of fucking May. It's not supposed to be this cold.
Yeah, I know. I had the heat off because I had it switched to AC, and I woke up one morning and it was down to like 62 degrees in the house. I was just, ooh, it's got a little cold.
That's right.
So I had to kick the heat back on. I was just like, Jesus, it's almost June and I got the furnace running.
Yeah, global warming. Indeed.
I know, it's all that man-made global warming. God damn it, you fossil fuel worshiping assholes.
Maybe that's what they meant. At the end of 12 years, we'll freeze to death.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Well, I see you got a lot of death and destruction and carnage behind you there.
I do.
Is that Twinsburg on a Saturday?
No, it's just it's scurrying to get in here mode. Put up something you haven't used this week.
Yeah. Well, that looks like what I watched a good part of the week. I actually turned the TV on for the first time in literally months.
Right.
And I thought, well, yeah, I haven't really checked out any of the streaming services lately to see if there's anything on. And I flipped over the Netflix and they uploaded a brand new docu-series on the Vietnam War.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
My Turning Point.
Okay.
Brand new. It's not one of the old ones that you may have seen before. This one was by far probably the best documentary I've seen on Vietnam.
Okay.
I learned a lot of things that I never heard about before.
Nice.
I didn't realize, and again, the Vietnam War was going on when I was just a kid. So basically, I was born
Sure, during it, right.
while the war was starting to scale up. So you don't understand anything about it until until about 1970. So and by then it was almost over. It was 6 years into it or so, 6 or 7 years into it, but I did not realize that there was such a big divide in Vietnam between the monks and the Catholics.
Brace yourself for the wildest ride of your life. It's the craziest book Chris Akin has ever written, and other things I should not say. Get ready for over 500 pages of pure, unfiltered debauchery. From his military years, Chris Akin spills the shocking stories of sex, partying, violence, and the stuff that's so wild it's probably illegal. You've heard the tales on the Classic Metal Show, but never like this. Don't wait. Get your copy now at chrisakin.net before the censors try to shut it down.
There was a lot of inner, what do you want to call, religious warring going on.
Okay.
And they were killing each other, prior to the war. Not only was there the war with the North Vietnamese trying to quote unquote reunify the South, and basically take over, the whole Vietnam in a communist fashion. But there was inner turmoil between the religious beliefs as well.
Okay.
I never heard about that part.
Me either.
So it's a very, very well done documentary. And again, what we always talk about, where in the hell is all this footage coming from? I am absolutely amazed at some of the most inane footage that really doesn't relate to any specific thing going on. It's just people filming all the time.
Well, wasn't that the first war where they actually deployed camera teams?
Yes, yeah. Well, that's what they said. This is the first television war.
Yeah.
But the lot of the video that they were showing on this wasn't like television footage. It was just footage.
Stuff they didn't use.
Yeah, like maybe some of the soldiers had their own little 8mm camera of their own, or something like that, and they had a shit ton of that kind of stuff. It was like, holy cow, and they some of the stuff that they showed was the murders that took place in that one northern village. Was it Lai?
Laos?
No, not Laos. Lai, I think it is. Where this company, the Charlie company, just went into this village and just started killing everybody.
Nice.
I mean, they just went
platoon style.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of where that came from. But they just went in and just started killing everybody.
Right.
Men, women, children, anybody who just crossed their paths. Boom. Just
good night.
And they were interviewing one of the photographers that actually took a lot of the photos.
Right.
Well, again, he was there on assignment, but he also had his own cameras.
Okay.
And so he took footage of the killings going on, and the government had to look at all the prints that he turned in for use in media and reports, and a lot of the footage got scrubbed. Right? They can't use this.
Yeah, it shows us in a bad light or whatever.
Exactly. And he took his own photos with his own camera, which he did not show them.
Right.
And when he got back stateside, he had his own dark room where he printed all the photos that he took, all the really gruesome stuff, and they showed a lot of these photos on this documentary.
Did he end up doing time for it for stealing?
No, not at all. What had happened is that it took about a year before the quote unquote the higher ups heard about the massacre that took place.
Right.
And once they heard about it, they were just like, well, we're going to look into this, right? And so once the investigation started, they came to him and said, well, you were on the ground at the time. What did you see? What did and because he had such a heavy conscience about what he did witness and the fact that they weren't aware of the actual carnage that took place, he gave them access to his personal photos, and they were just like, Jesus Christ, and it was a mess, and one of the main platoon leaders, he went to jail for it. He got sentenced, court-martialed, and went to jail for it and things. But I mean, this was all pretty brutal stuff. This all happened in like 1967, 68, somewhere around there, right about when you were born.
Yeah.
So all this stuff kind of took place, long before I was aware of it. And, I kind of studied that a little bit in high school, in history and things like that, but never to the extent that this documentary covers. So, I highly recommend it. It's a new add to Netflix. It's Turning Point, the Vietnam War.
Okay, I'll check that out.
It's a 5-part series, and each part is about an hour and about 90 minutes long. Each part, and it's very, very good. Very, very detailed, very easily understood. The conflict there, and the interesting thing is, and oftentimes what a lot of these documentaries do is they try to shield the truth about who really was at fault. Boy, they put a lot of onus on the Johnson administration for more or less lying to the public about what was really going on over there. They knew, according to this documentary, they knew back in 1968 that this war was unwinnable. But they continued on because Johnson didn't want to have egg on his face for getting into the war. And it's just like, well, fuck it. I'm not going to take the brunt for this, getting in and having all of our soldiers killed thus far and, all for nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm going all in. Fuck it, And,
and depending on how far you want to put your tinfoil hat on, they say that's the reason Johnson had Kennedy killed. Was because the establishment wanted that war and Kennedy wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah, I know. He wanted to withdraw.
Yeah, he wanted to get out of there completely.
And as soon as Kennedy got killed, Johnson signed whatever declaration to escalate the uptick in our involvement over there.
Yeah, he signed it before the blood was dry on the car seat.
Exactly.
He did. It was like the first thing he did.
Yeah.
Was signed that declaration. They even talk about it in the JFK movie, Declaration 383. That is what lies the Vietnam War. Right,
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, of course, in his Secretary of Defense, that Robert Magnum era, he was having a real hard time with this, and he basically was telling Johnson, it's just like, we gotta cut our losses and get the fuck out of there.
Right.
And he summarily was told, get the fuck out yourself. So he resigned. He goes, well, it was a good serving under the Lyndon Johnson administration, but my time here is done. And So he was just like, yeah, I can't continue on because we can't win this thing.
Sure.
So I got to get out of here.
Crazy. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. Since I don't plan on doing a damn thing tomorrow, I'll watch that and then wrestling pay-per-view. Sounds like 8 hours of my day is already booked up.
Yeah. So it was a good one. I watched about one and a half episodes like Monday through Friday this week. It's just kind of spread it out a little bit.
Sure.
But I was very, very impressed with how well put together this thing was. Because I've seen a lot of other Vietnam documentaries, and a lot of it has to do with more or less like positioning and, well, we took this, territory, or we took this hill, or we did this or did that. But getting into the nuts and bolts of this war, from a governmental standpoint.
Sure.
And, the decisions that were being made. And of course that bled into the Nixon administration. And here's the interesting thing.
Okay.
Johnson is the one who got us into this Vietnam War pretty heavily. I mean, obviously we were quote unquote sending advisors during the Kennedy administration, but Johnson is the one who, ramped this involvement into the war up.
Sure.
And it was just really going badly. But yet when Nixon came in, the protesters were acting as if Nixon was the one who was responsible for this war,
Right.
Granted, he inherited a real bee's nest with this war, and again, unwinnable. And so what do you do with it? Do you go, well, I'm just going to cut ties and just quit, because again, with the history of the US anyway, never losing war, it was like, peace with honor,
Right.
let's figure out a way of bowing out of this war where, we don't look like total losers here.
Right.
We don't necessarily have to be the ultimate victor, but, let's not look totally like we've lost this thing completely.
Sure.
But it was interesting how the tides turned and it made it look as, like the Republicans are warmongers or something. But it was the Democrats who got us into this thing, and everybody was like, the Republicans were responsible for this.
Yeah, it was Nixon, damn it.
Yeah, I know. And it was like, what the fuck is that all about?
Nixon was like 8 years into it and he took the fall for it, really.
Yeah, more or less. So, so if you have an interest in history and those type of things, I really found it to be very well done.
Well, cool. Very cool.
Yep. So.
What's the most painful way to die? Shotgun blast? Speeding bus? Drowning? But for many, burning alive is the most unimaginable fate. In 1994, Chris survived an industrial accident that left him with burns over 69% of his body. Just living defied all odds. In Call Me Chris, Chris Akin shares his harrowing journey of survival, recovery, and the brutal honesty of facing life after the flames. It's raw, real, and a testament to human resilience. Get your copy of Call Me Chris today at chrisakin.net or on Amazon. Witness the power of determination.